What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee on our Wealth Wednesday. So Stacey Tisdale is here.
Happy Wealth Wednesdays, everybody, and we are hungry today. We are going to feed you today. We're going to feed your bellies. We're going to feed your soul with donuts. Nothing better than that.
And Cloudy Donuts. And we have the partners from Cloudy Donuts here, Derrick, Faulcon, and the amazing Zewiditu Jewel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
I thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it. So excited to be here. Excited.
Absolutely.
You know, I was talking to Zodi because it's Women's History Month, so we were talking about things that we could do in collaboration. You know, once you guys opened the shop in Brooklyn, I was like, there's definitely going to be some synergy here for us to
Absolutely
make some amazing things happen. But I also saw you guys both at Earn Your Leisure when they had their book launch, and Derrick and I did the panel together. Derrick, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like I see you doing everything else. I'm like, when are we going to have our sit down also?
I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. As you know, we met about 3 years ago, and you were one of the first people to try our product, not knowing me. You gave us a shot. You tried the donut backstage, and we reposted it. That went viral.
That was at King's Theater in Brooklyn, right? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for that, and I'm appreciative of the platform and everything that you built, so I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm appreciative because these are vegan donuts, and sometimes people think vegan is nasty.
Oh, they're incredible.
But it's incredible. I always tell people, once you start trying things like this, you won't want artificial flavorings or anything like that, because when things are fresh like this, it just tastes better, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's why in our community, it can be a little bit of a taboo to approach veganism, right? Because like even as black people in general, most of us grew up in a scratch kitchen. Well, we grew up with baked products that were made by our big mamas, our moms, and it had all of those fresh ingredients. So like when we got into the world, for black people in general, it's high expectation when it comes to desserts and baked goods. So we are happy that we have a vegan product that's an alternative when it comes to certain dairy allergies or people not having having exposure to eggs and things like that. So it's how can you give them something in a traditional form but with a non-traditional approach?
Absolutely.
And I think with the dangers of what we're putting in our body right now and people being a lot more aware of that, you know, we're seeing certain things getting banned. We see when we go to other countries, they don't even use certain products.
Yeah, a lot of the
It's
things,
incredible the
absolutely.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're taking people back to our roots already. We know for people of color, whether you're from the Caribbean, we already are people that have practiced plant-based diets. So we're doing it in a really sweet way where people are like, okay, this is something that I can ease myself into. So it's really great to be able to provide, like Derrick said, people that have dairy aversions, people that are nut-free, but also people that just want to enjoy the lifestyle in a luxury way, you know. So it's for all people. You don't have to be vegan to have Cloudy Donut.
Well, let's talk about how we got here, because this was not your first business. For Derrick, I know everybody knows you from Cloudy Donuts right now, but they don't know the grind that happened before that, because you had another restaurant.
Yeah, so I had a restaurant in Baltimore called Homemade. And really, like I always tell people, I'm the black man's possibility, right? How can an ordinary man do extraordinary things and build and architect a life from scratch in which you are able to accomplish or able to do on a routine basis, whether you're a mechanic or whether you're an Amazon driver? It's about just really taking something that you do really well and scaling your life with it. So I started with a restaurant. And a lot of times when you start with something, we are told that we have to go after something that we're passionate about. But to be honest with you, I wasn't really passionate about the restaurant. I made great quality product, but I was passionate about ownership. So I spent 11 years incarcerated. 2 years I spent in solitary confinement. And when I was in solitary confinement, it was like, all right, you really don't got access to anything. So all I had access to was the newspaper, right? The Sunday paper, really thick. It got the funnies in there, the comedy section and things like that. And I would read the financial section, and it said that most people who became wealthy didn't do it off of one thing. They had a lot of little things, a lot of little things that they made money off of. So different streams. So the average millionaire had 7 streams of income. And when I came home, I said, I'm going after it. That's kind of how it started. So I started with one restaurant, which led to another restaurant, which led to a food truck, which led to buying a building of my previous restaurant, which led to another food truck, which led to 4 more donut shops. So it's really about the 7 streams. How could I, as a black man, come home and architect a life knowing that I couldn't run fast, I couldn't jump really high, and I wasn't a rapper, but I still had personal aspirations that were similar to those gentlemen. And it was really like, okay, I'm going to start with a restaurant. I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to build a life from it.
I want to say that's an anomaly in itself, though, because the restaurant business is known for
not
being
easy.
one of the most difficult businesses
Yeah.
to get into, as far as being able to maintain that, to maintain the quality, to maintain management, and then to even just, I feel like the majority of restaurants end up shutting down, but for you to do that, that's an anomaly in itself, like to have a restaurant that was successful.
Yeah, so most of the guys and, women who start restaurants, like you said, it's a high failure rate. The chances of making it are slim to none, and people wonder how I made it. But I wasn't going to fail at whatever I did. I could have been cutting grass. I would still be on. I would be successful. I could have been making purses. I would have been successful. So, like, the mindset that I teach specifically when it comes to the docu-series that I recorded called
Yeah,
The
we're
Seven
going to talk
Streams.
about that, Seven Streams.
Was really about, like, can I like, fuck it. Like, it got to happen for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, just being
Failure is not an
yeah,
option.
like you talking about, like, in front of projects. My father was a dope fiend. My mother went through subsidized housing. Like, I don't care about none of that. Like, none of that ain't gonna affect me. I'm gonna make a way. And that's kind of like the energy.
Not being defined by it.
Yeah, not being defined by it. And more or less, like you say, not allowing it to be an obstacle in your life. So you gotta realize I come from the day-to-day obstacle being death or jail. So it's easy for me to, like, get into it with, like, the health department. That's light work.
Now, at the same time, this is also a love story. I do want to
Yeah.
bring this up. So now,
Yes.
Zodi, you came into the picture also. Now, you had a job.
You were a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
As a teacher. And I can see you being a great teacher.
Thank you. I was a teacher for 14 years.
Just from watching your videos and seeing you speak about certain things like reverse gentrification, which we'll talk about shortly too. But now, how did you guys end up teaming up? Because some people also, listen, you guys are anomalies, because some people will also tell you, do not go into business with your significant other. But this has been working out great. So talk to me about that.
So Derrick and I met initially in 2018 at a music festival in DC. That's where I'm from. Derrick's from Baltimore. It's Broccoli City. And I was immersed in, the concert and just, like, enjoying the time. So I don't remember, but the person that Derrick,
having a good time.
I was having a good time, but the person that Derrick was with was following me on Instagram and gave him my handle. So now it's important to note Derrick is literally, the social media is not something he's always been forward facing in. So he would send me, like, DMs from his homemade brunch page, but the page was filled with, like, breakfast.
Right.
So, and, like,
why is this sandwich DM?
I was just like, okay, I'm a nice person. I would post the daily devotional a lot, and he would reply and just, say, like, really just chill things, not trying to holler or anything like that. But when my grandmother passed in 2019, we wanted to have a celebration of life. And Derrick reached out to me via the DM. So the eggs, it was like DMing me and said, like, I know someone. I was looking for an entertainer to perform, and Derrick said, I know someone. I'd love to pay for them to come from Baltimore to DC.
Oh, that is so nice.
And I was just like, that is so nice.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to FaceTime you. Like, I need to see who this person is. And we talked after that FaceTime for several weeks. We met on, actually, soon we'll be celebrating 6 years. We met on March 20th, 2019, and we've been together ever since. And then I'll let you chime in to talk about the conversation we had when I came onto the brand. So I was teaching. Okay. And then you called me one day. Yeah. So I was at work.
We had been together for a year and some change, and I went over the number. So, like, all right, so for black people, I tell us, I always say enough is enough because we don't have enough. And what I mean by that is, like, if we continue to do the things that we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting, and we already don't have shit. So how do you now change the narrative? And I think it specifically can start with a 2-income household, mutual sweat equity, into the person who has the best plan. So I always tell people, once you get over the good look, you get some good money, right? So I always believe that no matter what household you're in, the person that's in charge of the business should be the person who's the smartest with the best plan. It's not about being a man or being a woman or anything like that. So by the time I had Miss Zodi, I had 2 restaurants and a food truck. I owned a building. My debt-to-income ratio was like 90-10. Like, I had like 10% debt. I could cover all of my bills in like a month with just opening up my business. And it was about now what, right? So she's right about, like, how we met at Broccoli City. she don't remember me because she was high. She was smoking weed. She'll say
loves
that.
to say
We
that in
didn't
the
have to get
interview.
into the details.
Which
We
is
got the
legal
picture.
now, by the way.
Yeah, there's no problem with it.
You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, in my mind, I'm unforgettable for real. You going to remember my personality,
But
right?
you
So-
remembered Zodi.
Definitely,
Clearly.
100%.
So, and she said you sent those DMs not trying to holler, but in your head, were you kind of...
Hollering.
No.
No.
Like, no, I love Zodi.
You weren't even whispering?
No. It was really about, I thought that she was really smart. She seemed spiritual. Of course, she's attractive, but I just saw something in her that was a light. So I've always had the ability, like, to be very, like, pure in my approach with people.
So it was a spiritual type of connection.
Yeah, it was like more of a
in
spiritual
okay.
connection.
Yeah.
Then once we went on a date, I was like, oh yeah, I love this person. Like this,
Yeah.
she was phenomenal, right? So like, but to be honest, like yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I tried to holler at Broccoli City. She was high. She don't remember me. When I first took her out on a date, I was trying to get some ass.
Okay.
That's all I was thinking. Like, yo, I want. That's it. You know, because I wasn't in a space.
That's fair.
Yeah, I wasn't in a space in life as a man where I was willing to commit to anything long term. But once I got to know her, she was the woman of my dreams because she checked all of all of the boxes. But then more specifically, she was an anomaly because she was someone that was willing to go on a journey with me, and not just a professional journey, but a mental journey, a spiritual journey, an economic journey, and a physical journey. So I always wanted a girl like that I could ride with. I come from like the street, so like I come from like I put packs in your mother house. I tell you hold a pistol. If I go to jail, I need you to answer the phone, bail me out. I needed a woman who was like with it. You know what I'm saying? And you know, despite how she looks externally, like we the same internally, like we two hitters. You feel me? So like a lot of people don't really understand because Zodi's very introverted in terms of her personal side. So she's a Gemini, and she kind of like she not gonna say too much, but she's a straight savage. You know, and she's my ride or die. So like, I've been able to get more done with this woman than I've been able to do with most grown men.
Yeah.
And I think as black men, we need to be more realistic about our relationships and pouring into our partners. So.
And look what you can build. Hence the Brown Collective. Tell
Yes.
everybody about that.
Yeah.
So all right, boom. So just being honest with you, we were in this space and we was like, yo. I had the real estate, like I had accumulated a small portfolio of things, and it's
We
like
have a lot to unpack.
Yeah. I had accumulated the trucks I owned outright. I had 3 properties that I owned. Then we had another 2 properties. We had a homestead, and then we had a small property that we were building, and we had all these things, right? So I'm gonna tell you how I approached it. When I was hustling, just being honest with you, say if I had a brick of coke, I know I can't sell all this shit by myself. So I need a bunch of guys in different neighborhoods that I could connect with that's going to help me sell it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, cool. So if I build all these businesses, I could find all these young black and brown people that's going to buy into my story, the entrepreneurship, and then I can give them away. So it was really like, my mindset was like, build it, fuck it, figure it out later, right? So most of the time when I bought the properties, I didn't have enough money beyond like the down payment and the escrow. I barely could service the debt. I didn't really know what the hell was going on, but I treated it like the streets. Like if you go up to a guy, you got money for 1 kilo, and he try to give you another one, you're going to say, yeah, I could take that.
Right.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'll figure it out later. So the Brown Collective was a byproduct of ownership. We had a lot of things that we own. We wanted to give people the opportunities to participate in the brand, and we wanted to do it with a level of autonomy that most white folks wouldn't give us. Right, so it's really about putting black and brown faces in white spaces. How often have you walked down Rodeo Drive and seen a black entity? How often have you walked down, say, Madison Avenue and seen a black entity? It just doesn't exist, right? So we typically approach it from a consumption standpoint. Even when we had the panel and we talked about real estate, it was maybe 300 people there, but maybe 10 people raised their hand when it came to ownership. Ownership for black people is just something that's so far-fetched, we don't even see it as a reality.
We're used to being property.
We used to be in property.
Yeah.
We used to be in that space. So, like, when you walk into your favorite store on Madison Avenue, you don't know the comps of the real estate. You're looking to buy the purse or the bag or the shoes. So, I always looked up to, like, ownership. I mean, my grandfather, he had a $45,000 house, and we grew up there, and there was 14 of us, and I came out of the house with the mentality, like, I'm going to own everything.
Yeah.
I remember getting locked up as a young kid, and you need to bail out, and you need property, right?
Right, for
I couldn't bail out. So, like, the whole thing for me was ownership. I wasn't worried about like being the cutest guy. I wasn't worried about being like the most successful online or being the most popular. I was just straight going for deeds, titles, ownership.
Real estate played a big part in your overall journey, right?
Yeah. Real estate really changed my perspective. So I always tell people, along with the 3 E's, the 3 S's, you got the 3 E's.
Wait, what are the 3 S's?
Saving plus sacrifice equals scaling.
Okay.
So stacking money and saving, right? So like I always say, saving plus sacrifice equals scaling, because whatever situation that you're in, if you're willing to become more lean in a way in which you spend more money, and then you're willing to double down on your efforts, you probably can generate more income as well. And when I talk to a lot of our people, we're not willing to compromise the trip to Jamaica, the All-Star game, the private flights or things like that. But like a lot of time our answers lie in our disciplines. That's the true answer. It's not the big things that you do every day. It's the small things that you don't do. You see what I'm saying? So I was able to like, I'm going to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I drove a Mini Cooper for 5 years. I'm going to drive a Mini Cooper. I lived in a studio. Like, I'm going to make a way. And I just kept acquiring. And then it was real frustrating at times because I never had any liquid capital and I missed out on a lot. But then I got something that nobody could take away from me, straight ownership.
Right. I agree with that. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes with trying to, but when you have a goal and you know what it is that you're doing and what you're striving to, it makes it better. You know what I mean? When you know why you're sacrificing and saving and, not doing certain things that everybody else is doing, it kind of makes you feel like, all right, I know what I'm doing it for.
Right.
Yeah.
At least.
And look what you built. We talk, and we'll be talking more about, and we talked about going into partnership with it. Entrepreneurs don't always think ownership gives them financial security. Like owning that real estate. You're giving yourself space for your business to grow.
And
so much space.
And when you talk about like going on Rodeo Drive and not seeing places that we own, like Zodi, you guys have the Cloudy Donuts in Brooklyn in a neighborhood that for some people we're like,
America's first suburb. It is historically America's first suburb.
It is definitely a place that my mom actually used to work right near there. So I used to go to Montague Street with her all the time we would go eat at restaurants that are on that block. But to your point, nothing there is like black owned. There's not black people that are owning those brownstones over there. They're like ridiculously expensive. I've always known that since I was a little kid. That this is not a neighborhood where I would look to see a black owned business.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about that decision, just because I know when you guys first did it, people were like, why would you want to put it there?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we were having conversations, with our peers and we were saying we were going to open in New York. And, people always want to give you suggestions. So they were like, oh, you should check out, certain areas of Brooklyn, Flatbush, Bed-Stuy. You should go to Harlem. And I actually lived in New York. I went to undergrad at the New School. So I had lived in all these places. And for me, it was like, yeah, that makes sense. And of course, when Derrick is such a, when we first met, we agreed that we would be transition people, right? And I was thinking that this was extended to like our relationship and shift the narrative of our families, etc. I had no idea that this would be something that would translate into our professional lives. And so when I came to him and I'm thinking maybe we're going to look in these particular areas too, Derrick had a completely different mindset about where he wanted to go and where he wanted to open, and I'll let you speak to that, and then I can I started to look into the history of these neighborhoods because that's something I'm really passionate about. And so not only did we open up in Brooklyn Heights, but I moved to Brooklyn Heights. So I lived in the neighborhood for 2 years. I met with the community board. I met with the schools. I met with the churches. Because it was really important for me to coming in with like this community energy to ensure like community nowadays kind of feels like a buzzword. But being from DC, being a fourth generation Washingtonian and really seeing the power of Chocolate City and black-owned businesses and things like that, it was really important for me to establish myself within the already existing community because I knew we'd be opening up, right? And as I started to do my research, I learned that we were the first black-owned food and beverage business in Brooklyn Heights.
Right.
And part of learning that was because one of our neighbors who had been living in the neighborhood for over 60 years came in, and Derrick and I were in the store. We were like unpacking boxes we hadn't opened yet, and she thought that we were the movers.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She thought we were the movers. She was completely floored. She couldn't believe that we were the proprietors of the business. And she said, I've been here my entire life. I've never seen a Black-owned business. So I did further research. I found out, okay, when it comes to food and beverage, we were the first. And it was really important, and I learned through Derrick, to understand the difference between like a Black-owned neighborhood and a Black-occupied community, because there's a difference, speaking specific to real estate. And so that's when we started to open our eyes to understand, like, what we're doing here is what I call reverse gentrification. So it's all about bringing our Black-owned business into affluent communities absent of color, and providing value. So we're not just coming in and saying, like, yeah, we're Cloudy Donut, what's up, come get a donut. Like, we gave out so many complimentary donuts. We connected with so many neighbors, and we were actually the first on our block. There's several businesses. We were the first business in the community to open, like, have a ribbon cutting ceremony with the councilman. We opened 2 days before, we opened the store. So all of that was really intentional. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, for some people, even to this day, and definitely when we open, even people within our community just couldn't wrap their minds around why we would go to a white neighborhood. But Derrick, he had insights on, finding the place. I remember when you found it.
You call it reverse gentrification. I call it initiate inclusivity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for me,
yeah.
I turned into like a young Angela, right? So you walking down Montague Street with your mom, because kids are taught things subconsciously through visualization, right? So you see this all white neighborhood and they own all this stuff. Where I came from, you bet not break or fuck nothing up.
Right.
We over here amongst these white folks now. Be on your best behavior, right?
Exactly. We were just talking about that.
So Black people have been able to kind of navigate through white society from a space of fear, what they're afraid of, right? So I never was afraid of white folks. I actually grew up in a neighborhood free of all white folks. Never seen them until we had interactions with the police from Baltimore City, the second largest Black city in the country, right? So as a Black man who was successful, I always lived in these affluent neighborhoods that was not only absent of color, but absent of like people like myself. So I lived in Beverly Hills, and I couldn't connect with nobody. I lived in Tribeca. I couldn't really connect with nobody. So I wanted to put businesses in neighborhoods where I would personally live, but I wanted to bring a level of authenticity to the neighborhood too. That also you gotta show white folks sometimes that, listen, I could do the same shit and I could do it better. It's just what it is. I ain't gonna lie to you. I wasn't moving there to be friends. They don't move to our neighborhood to be friends. I had a product that was dynamic. They had a built-in audience of kids and people who like what we got. And our goal is to build up our brand and include Black people. But also we are aware that we do have white customers who buy the product, but it's really about shaking it up. So like Black people always say you should have went in Bed-Stuy, a Black neighborhood. That's not a Black neighborhood. That's a Black occupied neighborhood with a bunch of George boys on and everything. That's it. So that's not a Black
occupied,
neighborhood.
not owned.
Yeah. So,
Big difference.
so we really got to figure it out. So how do we grow our brands if we continue to do the things that we do? That's why I always push enough is enough, because we don't have enough.
Right.
So, all right, well, let's talk about the 25 Black businesses that are in Bed-Stuy that still haven't been able to scale. Let's talk about the 25 Black-owned successful businesses in Atlanta that still get like a lack of access to capital. See, the thing about it in America is this. No matter how good you are, you still Black. And I know that. So I know that no matter how good we are in Brooklyn Heights, no matter how good I am in Beverly Hills, I'm still only going to get but so far because of my Blackness, right? So then your mindset is like, well, fuck it. It's house money. Let's put the store wherever we want to put it. Let's sell whatever we want to sell. And the people who fuck with us, let them come whenever and however they want to come. Yeah. That's freedom. See, that's freedom. And then a lot of people don't understand that, because a lot of our entrepreneurs in spaces where they kind of got to bust their ass to make ends meet, and now they kind of like got to walk on eggshells. But then you basically back to being a little girl on Montague Street, afraid that if I say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, I'm going to be in the same situation. So I always tell people, right, we spent our childhood trying to be adults, and then we spent our adulthood running from our childhood. You got to look at it like this. I'm already a nigga. I'm already Black. I'm already from the ghetto. My father already a dope fiend. Open the motherfucking spot up and see what happens.
Right.
You got to
That's
set yourself
it.
free.
I don't care what they say. I don't care what they do. I'm here for me. And if I don't shake it up, because I could have easily opened up a fried chicken spot in Bed-Stuy and had a bunch of guys out there drinking and smoking and had all the rappers pull up. And that would have did something for the community, right? Negative, maybe positive, well, who knows? But what would have changed for a person that's me, a young version of myself?
What do you want entrepreneurs to take away from that?
So I speak specifically for black people. I just got to be honest with you because the white reality and the black reality is totally different. So I always tell black people, for white folks, it's 2025. For us, it's 1925. When it comes to our entrepreneurs, we have to move from a space of fearlessness.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to take a chance and make a choice. You got to live with it. They going to hate you either way.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to come in just because it's vegan. Some people been dying to come in because it's vegan. Some people mad we're in Brooklyn Heights, but then there's black people who live in Brooklyn Heights like, it was never no black people here. I'm so glad you here.
Right.
Right? So damned if you do, damned if you don't. Just rock out and make sure that whatever you do, if you give it your all, it'll give you everything you want.
Speaking of fearlessness, you're going into film now because you haven't done enough.
Yeah. So yeah, we got a docu-series called The Seven Streams, and it's really about this. So in our community, we there's a lot of love and support, and people who want the game, right? And they want the game. And I'm like, all right, how can, like Zodi taught me a term called the medicine and the candy, where like, how can you give somebody something that's good for them, but how can you present it in a way that they are attracted to it? So we're going to fashionize the brand in the sense that we're going to do 4 boxes a year, like fashion drops, winter, summer, spring, fall. And when we drop the boxes, we'll drop seasonal content that led up to us dropping the box.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Right.
for dessert boxes.
For a dessert box.
Okay.
So the dessert box itself would be $50 retail. But if you subscribe and get the dessert box, then you'll get the content as well. Some people won't be interested in the desserts and don't want the content, and then you feel like you won. Because I didn't want to position myself as like, I'm the model, I'm the how-to guy. I didn't want to be like a guy like, I can teach you how to grow crypto or how to build a restaurant. Like, I'm not that guy. And I feel like that sometimes when we put ourselves in that space, it allows you to kind of be ridiculed. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
So I was like, well, look, if I give them a box and then I give them like 10 principles. So I got 10 principles called, like Biggie had the 10 crack commandments. I got the 10 black commandments. 10 principles that black people can live by in general that can allow you to make it through tough situations that are difficult, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's feeling like you down and out, or like for all the guys that I speak for coming home from prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are principles that Derrick has taught me. I mean, aside from being, partners in the business and life, he served as a major mentor to me because being somebody that went to art school their entire life, I was taught that creativity is finances are the death of creativity. If you go into something and you're thinking,
Which is wild.
It's a bad
crazy,
script.
crazy.
It's a very bad
so
script.
when you have this art form in your thing, and now you are trying to figure out how you can monetize it, you find yourself in a way in which you're in a battle with yourself. And so the 10 Black Commandments have been really positive in my life because I really had to recenter myself coming from a single mom that doesn't have a lot of financial savvy, and even assisting her and understanding how can I again shift the narrative of how life goes for us, you know?
Yeah. So it's like stuff like enough is enough because we don't have enough.
Right.
Meaning like, it's as general as, why not get together and do something? We already broke.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Enough is enough. If I'm in a position to PR and I could give you a leg up, like Angie doing us a major favor by saying like, I'm already got a show. I like what you got going on. Enough is enough because we don't have enough.
Right.
So our black media, like sometimes our black media are gatekeepers. And it's like, well, you'll cover like shade, but you don't want to cover us and we really winning. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or this is another thing that's extremely important. The media in black culture typically want to see us 2 ways. They want to see us begging and crying that we get ready to close, because then now we'll
rally up.
We'll rally up and
yeah.
spend some coins on something at a time, right? Or they want to see us in a conforming standpoint, like, okay, well, I'm a Tom basically. I'm exactly who white America wants me to be. They've accepted me, so now I can get that deal. But when you really standing on like, no, I'm really doing something with a real black woman and we really got 2 locations, it's like, well, that's not a story. They already made it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Totally.
And it's crazy because it's like, this should be a story that allows us to become successful, free of debt, free of outside interference, and allow us to create a vertical that can now grow and employ people in our community. Like, it's so crazy because we're in Brooklyn Heights and everybody who works for us black and brown, and people walk in and don't even notice that.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus like when we in Atlanta and Baltimore, it's like, oh yeah, you got all black kids working there, you black, you doing this, I'm gonna walk straight in. So we need our community to come out and not only support but also consume. Buy the product. If you don't eat donuts or you don't eat vegan, just come in there, wish me the most success and brighten my day, because some days it be fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta realize, yo, we walking outside around all these rich, privileged white people who never been around black people, and it ain't bad style, right? But how do you kind of shake it up?
Yeah.
You gotta shake it up, because black people are not a monolith, right? We can be multiple things at multiple times. Like, you know how many black people I know that's wealthy that still eat sweet potato pie?
Right.
That still love fried chicken?
Yeah.
That still like ratchet shit.
Yeah.
And like they can't have that connectivity, because it's like, well, if I go back and I'm in the hood, they hate me.
Yeah.
And then I ain't black enough for the rich white people who are around me. You gotta realize successful black people go through a lot of bullshit because we always in the middle.
I grew up in that, and I'm actually writing a book called The Price of Growing Up in Racial Isolation. But what I hear when I'm listening to you is your mindset. And black people are an incredible study in resilience, and that there are stories just never told that way. And what you went through, where does this resilience come from? I know it's in our nature. We're all born with it, but what do you do to remind yourself that what you are resilient, that you can share with our audience?
So my thing is this, right? I feel like that there has to be an extremely huge why, right? I mean, some days I get on Zodi nerves, she get on my nerves, and we got collective goals, but what helped us make it as a couple is independent goals. So like, I don't really always treat it like a road. States I treat it just like this. If we driving down the road and a deer come across, we keep going. If there's a stop sign, we keep going. If there's a detour sign, we find another way. What black people have to understand is it's not going to always be about a passion or a certain amount of income. It's going to really boil down to like, yo, what type of life do I want to live, and how do I see myself? And nothing else fucking matters.
Yeah.
Not white opinion, not black opinion, not what nobody say. Because at the end of the day, if you stay focused on a journey, bro, you going to get where you got to go. It might be a different road. The Drake road and the Nipsey Hussle road was two different roads. But when you saw them at the end of that road, you seen two successful brothers. That's what you see. If you see a bunch of moguls in the corner, they all might not have the same road, whether it's Robert F. Smith, Don Peoples, or Tyler Perry, but you see three winners. If I see Angela Yee, if I see Beyonce, and I see Viola Davis, they all winning. You can't miss with none of those people. And I think like we are consumed with focusing on the next man road. Stay in your lane.
Now I gotta ask you, Zodi, what made you? Now you guys briefly talked about how she left her job, because of the plan, right? This was the plan that felt like it was going to work. How was that for you? You said you didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, so I spent the majority of my educational career teaching in elementary school. I was a theater teacher. And then I ended my career teaching in early childhood because I did a stint in middle school, and it was wild. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to understand the psychology. How did we get here? So I wanted to go back to early childhood. I was in a position where, I think for myself, I've always been a woman of service. I've always been a person to take care of other people. And I think that sometimes we can find ourselves in ways where we say like, I'm taking care of this person, I'm taking care of this, because it's easier to take care of somebody than to take care of yourself. So when Derrick and I had a conversation one day, and I was just like frustrated with my like coworkers, and I was like, I'm over this. And he was like, all right, like he's a very serious person, as you can tell, right? And so like if he's not the person that you come to and complain, like because he's gonna like
I'm looking for solutions.
He's looking for solutions.
So like this, what I did just to kind of like chime in.
absolutely.
So she was working, and she told me what she was making a week, and she was catching Ubers to her job,
Right.
and then she was paying for like her lunch, and I went over the numbers, and I was like, Zoe, so like you basically net like $300 a week
Yeah.
after all of her expenses, right?
Pay
'Cause,
teachers more.
yeah, teachers don't make a lot of money, so she loved it. She was passionate about it. She had did it for so long, and then I realized, like she said, she's a service woman, so she had taken care of so many other people up to the time that her grandmother passed, that she never really considered herself.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that she's done a lot of great things and contributed towards society, she didn't consider like, yo, you can get an LLC, you can get a bank account.
Because I think we also think that part of being in service is not making a lot, right? So
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how we
naturally
think.
just take care.
We don't equate like being financially successful with being a person that also is a giver and a
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
And then also, to be honest, taking advantage of the experiences that you have, because I grew up like upper middle class, so I already grew up with a level of privilege. So I assumed that things would just fall into place as they had, and it's not until you get with a grinder that you realize you got to work for everything. That's why I said I'm a savage, because now like I'm not playing, like I'm absolutely not playing, because this is our like lives.
And like Angela said, like you're right. They make it synonymous. They make the giveaway with being broke, and that's why
you're an activist. You shouldn't own a home.
People give you a hard time about it.
It's crazy.
If you're an activist, why is this person flying first class? Like, why not?
Absolutely.
So people kind of like make us the devil when it's like, yo, we gonna do this pop up with you, but we gotta make some money, and they like, yo, what about the community? Like, yo, there's no community without capitalism.
Right.
How do you think all these white boys able to do the things they do? They get rich and they get the money to their white wife, and she pass it off to the white nonprofit that she might or might not care about. That's just, we gotta understand our reality and the world that we working in. So like, I gave her reality. I said, yo, you make $300 a week. I could pay you that. Quit the job.
Yeah.
She was on her lunch break. She said, I'm gonna put my 2 weeks in when I get off the lunch break.
Twist my arm.
Yeah, that was it.
That,
I mean, it's just because I think, and like you say, speaking to a level of seriousness, right? I think for black men, it's the most important time to be ultimate serious. Like it's no reason for me to come home from prison, have all these things against me, wake up every day black, dealing with FBI, DA, task force, robbers, other drug dealers, or I'm in the corporate world, I'm dealing with health department, fire department, I'm dealing with the neighbors complaining. So it's like I'm already waking up behind the line. So I treat life like a track race, and there's 7 of us in the lane. I'm the 7th. So how am I playing? You know what I mean? So I came out with Avengers. I was on it. So I was like, yo, quit the job. I'm gonna pay you that. I could pay you more than that. And then after she quit the job, I was like, look, move in with me, and we could work more hours on it.
Yeah.
But everyone's
save money.
Yeah, save money. And everybody's not built for that. So then we moved together. And then, I mean, the brand grew manifold. It was basically 8,000 followers when I bought the donut shop. I had 8,000 followers. She grew it into 70-something thousand. I didn't really know anything about community because I lived a very recluse life. I came home from prison. I did so much shit in the street and the people. So like I never been on. I still to the day never been on Facebook. I never been on Twitter or Twitch or X and none of that. But I owned everything. Yeah, and I really had real money and a real credit score. And I really had real businesses that I really owned, and I really worked out, and I really was a man, and I really stand for certain things. And that mattered to me more than like, you got 1 million followers. And, I didn't really know nothing about the social world, but I think she opened up the social world to me in a positive way in which it allowed me to change and for my business to grow to be here today.
Yeah. It's interesting that you didn't know much about it, but you was DMing her from the...
Right.
He knew what he needed to know.
I knew what I needed to know.
Okay, yes.
I knew enough,
He knew what he
And it's
needed
crazy
to
because
know.
Sierra was one of the page too then. Yeah. Right, you're right.
That's
So
so
I always
funny.
I knew what I
define
needed to
our
know,
relationship.
And I always tell her that too. I'm like, yo, if you ever left me, I'm going to know enough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That you do say that. And so like I define our relationship, our business relationship as Derrick builds the world and I bring people into it.
Okay.
That's
And I think that also works in business when people have different roles.
Yeah, definitely.
Because sometimes you can't have 2 people doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Somebody is good at this, and then this, what you do, complements what that is. So it's kind of like forming something instead of us bumping heads doing the same thing.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and to the point when you said that sometimes people say, like in business, like you shouldn't work with your partner, right?
Sometimes you shouldn't.
Sometimes you shouldn't. I will say.
Sometimes you shouldn't.
I will say, like you said, everyone has roles. And so I would say to like women that are listening to this or, significant others that are working with their partners to understand and trust your partner and the role in which you're in, because we have found ourselves in spaces where me being a woman of service, I'm just trying to help. So I'm thinking like, okay, let me step off base so I can help with this and help with this. And that's how rifts can occur. Like they can arise that way because you're not staying, like Derrick said, in your lane.
Right.
But as a woman, I'm thinking, nah,
You
like
have to
I
fix
see
everything.
something, I gotta fix it because it's just it's an innate thing that we do. But trusting the role and the position is definitely a way in which I think can work really well. And
I admire you both because I do the work I do with couples and money. it's really difficult, but it can also be the best learning experience if you're willing to go that distance and understand what someone's real intentions are. You can learn so much about each other. So partners shouldn't work together. Soulmates can, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, and then
yes.
like Zodi was saying, stay in your lane and don't bite off more than you can chew, right? So
Yeah.
like, for example, some of the goals that we have as Black people cannot be accomplished in our generation. It's just not realistic. I think that generational is something that's incremental and built over time, right? So another thing that kept me really focused is that I understood the role that I played within my family dynamic based off of the generation that I was born in. I'm not going to build $100 million company, but I can get to 7 streams. So I always tell people, when you teach slow, they learn fast. When you teach fast, people learn slow. So my whole goal with Zodi was not trying to become the wealthiest, most successful company. It was just a brick by brick. I'm going to show you how we did this, and then I'm going to show you how we did that. And then little that we can accumulate, then I'm going to show you how to take care of it. And then I'm going to show you how, if you want to, you can grow it. And that's enough. See, a lot of times we don't comp out our life. And what I mean by that is that we don't come up with a dream life that we want to live and then actually put a real number to it that can make it make sense.
Yeah, that part.
And then take your skill set and allow yourself to incrementally lean into that number. So like when people see us and they say like, so what's Cloudy Donut? Is it going to be 50 stores? It'll never be 50 stores because that's not the economic goal that we have.
Okay.
See, we don't have a Donut of the Year goal.
Right.
We don't have a James Beard Award goal. We don't have a New York Times Best Donut goal. We got a get free goal, wake up and not do nothing goal.
Yeah,
Passive
you have
income,
that level
yeah.
of awareness, because what you're talking about, like my father's generation, his father's generation, they'd in so much pain. They want, I'm going to save the whole family.
Yeah.
I'm going to make everything. I'm going to fix everything like that. And they didn't have that the financial literacy education to do that. But you know, you guys are going to come back very, very soon, right?
Yeah. We're going to come back. Yeah. So
Listen, every time I see Zodi, when I did the Earn Your Leisure thing, I was like, y'all put the donuts to the side for me, please. And she
That's the only reason
And
I'm
she
like
did.
rushing this now. I'm like,
Yeah,
we'll finish next week because I'm going to eat these donuts now.
Well, we actually brought you guys a preview of Cloudy Cakes.
Ooh, I saw you
Yeah,
guys
the
talking
pineapple
about
Cloudy
that.
cakes.
The Brown
Cloudy
Collective.
cakes.
Were you
Yeah,
eating those at
yeah.
the music festival, or they're just
What
regular?
kind of
cakes
what
we're talking
flavors do
about?
we have today?
So we got a brown sugar pineapple upside down with more of like a bourbon glaze. I think I'm excited for y'all to try that.
Aren't you fasting this week?
No.
And then we have a lemon blueberry with fresh lemon zest glaze on top.
Yeah, lemon blueberry.
But I want you to try the
I can't
brown
eat pineapple. That's the only
Oh,
fruit
you
I can't
pineapple?
eat. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say lemon blueberry.
So pineapples for you. Lemon
Yeah, but
blueberries.
that's
It's 2 of each. You got, yeah.
All right. Sorry, Dan. No.
Last thing, how can people? They can find you through us. We're going to feature you guys
Yes.
in Wealth Wednesday's
Yes.
newsletter. We're going to partner on a gazillion things. And how can people find you on social media?
So you can find us on social media, Cloudy Donuts, all thing Cloudy Donuts. There's 2 handles. We have them both, Cloudy Donut Truck and Cloudy Donuts with an S. You can follow me personally to learn about my neo-entrepreneurship experience through a woman's perspective at Zewiditu. That's my name. And then
Brown Collective.
The Brown Collective, you can find us there, and that's where you'll learn a lot about the 7 streams, which Derrick will be dropping soon.
We got a little
Absolutely.
preview. So
Yes.
we had a
Like it,
chance to,
did you-
yes.
What'd you think?
Absolutely.
We were sitting there watching it. We're like, oh, we're late for our next interview.
Okay. yeah.
No, but
Yes,
you're right. People need to
captivating.
see the whole journey.
Yeah,
from,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. So thank y'all for
Yeah,
having
and
us,
on
but-
teamwealthwednesdays.com, we're going to be profiling them in our newsletter. And if you couldn't remember all those handles,
we got you.
we got you.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I would say they can reach us at Homemade Brunch, which I would turn into like 7 streams, and then we have a newsletter with the Brown Collective that'll give you information as to when the docu-series is going to drop, and the cakes will be available online next week.
Did you hear my stomach? Right now? All right. Thank you
Yeah,
both
yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
It was
Don't
a
forget
pleasure.
our pop-up. Okay, Zodi?
Absolutely,
Okay, we're doing a
absolutely.
pop-up.